Ready, babe?
All set, my love. Please envelop this entity so completely in love that all needs, wants, and desires are chosen.
And greetings.
Greetings, Wonders.
Greetings, Maggie.
Would you please go to whom, to where, and to when you are directed? Would you please locate your facilitator, Maggie McGuffin Cadet, on November 17th, 2007?
Yes, we have you.
We are gathered here at 8361 11th Line, RR number 2 in the town of Thornton in the province of Ontario, to do a reading for the Wonders Hour radio show. May we begin?
Please.
Thank you, Wonders. Wonders, you've been talking about giving away 10% of abundance lately. Can you elaborate on that concept?
Yes.
Okay. Will you?
Yes.
Okay.
So what are you waiting for?
Shall I ask another question?
No.
Okay.
No. We're waiting for your 10%.
Oh, okay.
See it from this perspective, and we know we're playing with you here.
Yeah.
Do you like being played with?
Yes.
Oh,
I
good.
do. And is that my 10%, just my interaction?
Of course.
Okay.
You see, dear friend, most individuals don't see themselves as abundant. They see themselves as lacking. And if you see yourself as lacking, then of course, why would you want to give anything away? There's not enough, is there?
Right.
So regardless how much you have, if your perspective is lack, then you'll never give anything away. You see? What we're suggesting is share 10% of your abundance with everyone around you. Now, to do that, of course, you must first begin to perceive that you are abundant. As we said, if you see yourself with lack, then of course there's what is there to share? You don't want to give 10% of your lack. Do you see? You can't. It's an impossibility. Your mind won't let you give away 10% of what you don't have. Do you see?
Yes.
But if you see yourself as abundant, then 10% of the abundance becomes not 10% of just what you have, but 10% of the abundance, which is extra to what you have. Do you see? So then it's not a difficulty sharing 10% of your abundance, is it? Now, the key here is to realize that any individual that begins this process will never choose to give away, to share 10% of their abundance, as long as there is perspective of lack within themselves. An example of that would be that individuals who see themselves as having enough. They have a good house, good home, good car, a fairly good wage, good job. Do you see?
Yes.
But regardless of how they see themselves, and they've got good money in the bank, they've got enough for their retirement, etc., and they still look at all of that and don't see that as abundance. They see it as just barely enough. Do you see? So that's still a perspective of lack, isn't it?
Yes.
Yet there's individuals who don't have houses, don't have cars, don't have retirement funds, and yet they see whatever they have as being more than they absolutely want or need. And they share that with everyone. You see? So the difference of the individual is not the economic circumstance. It's not the physical reality that they exist in. It certainly has nothing to do with how much material wealth they've accumulated. Do you see? It has to do with how they perceive themselves. And it's a perception. As we said to you before, the existence you live in is an illusion. Do you see?
Yes.
It's an illusion because it's based on perceptions. And as long as you perceive that who you are is someone lacking, you will never share any part of who you are. You'll always struggle, fight, work, push, pull to get more. You see? It's an impossibility to do anything else. But if you change your perception, that you see yourself with abundance, and we don't mean here material abundance, we don't mean here money, do you see? We mean abundance on all levels. And we say abundance on all levels because we see where your mind goes and we see where everybody else's mind is going. Yes, but I may have abundance in this, but I don't have abundance in that. Well, then you don't have abundance. You're working on lack then. Do you see?
Yeah.
As long as you say to yourself, I'm abundant in this area, but I'm not in that area, then you're not really abundant. You're working on lack. Your perception is one of lack. Do you see?
Yeah.
Oh, you can convince yourself that you got more than enough in this area, not enough in that area. You see? But it's still lack. It's like the individual, the farmer who goes out and he has an apple orchard. So he sees all of his apples and he sees that he is abundant in apples. But he has no cows, no chickens, and no pigs. So he has no meat supply for himself. So he sees himself lacking in meat supply. But rather than see himself as abundant, completely abundant, what he sees is that he is lacking in the meat supply. And he has more than enough apples. So what he tries to do is he tries to convert his apples into meat by selling them. You see? Which is a good way, because after all, that's what most of the individuals do in your society. They would take their apples, sell them, make money, go out and buy meat. Do you see?
Yes.
And then they would say, see, I have abundance. But that's not the abundance we're talking about. Until you can perceive that all of your existence is abundant, then you will try to convert one part of your existence into another part of your existence in order to equalize everything. So you're trying to equalize to what? Abundance or to lack? We would suggest lack. You're trying to equalize to the lowest possible common denominator. You see?
Yes.
And in doing so, you create a reinforcement of your perspective of lack. Do you see? And in creating that reinforcement of perspective of lack, then of course you have just enough apples to sell. You never have more than you need. You have just enough to sell. Do you see?
Yes.
So an individual of that nature, for example, and to continue our example, would look at his apple orchard, and if young kids came into his apple orchard to steal a few apples, he would chase them away and catch, if he caught them, force them into some kind of a payment back for the apples they took. Because he would see that as being taken away from what he says is his abundance, or in effect, his lack that has to equalize to his other lack. Do you see? So he would never see himself as abundant. He would never share that which he has. Oh, he'd sell it, but he wouldn't share it. He wouldn't give it away. Do you see?
Yes.
So based on that concept, now do you see what we're talking about here?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
It does.
So based on that concept, when you look around you, most individuals are like the farmer. They have a little bit too much of this, not enough of that. So what they do is they sell this to get that. Do you see? This is how jobs were created. You sell your time and your energy for payment so you can go out and buy other things. Do you see?
Yeah.
But you see your time and energy as lacking. So of course, because it's limited, after all, the concept of time has a limit on it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So because it's limited, it's lacking, and because it's lacking, it's not abundant. Because it's not abundant, then how can you, in effect, share any of that? Do you see?
Yeah.
You'd have to pay for it. You'd have to get something for it. Do you see?
Yeah.
And even if you were to volunteer, which some would say, well, what about volunteerism, where you're sharing your time? Are you really basing it on the concept of abundance or the concept of lack? Because people who volunteer, most of them, not all of them, but most of them, will volunteer in order to get something from it, some personal satisfaction. Do you see?
Yeah. Definitely.
They don't do it out of the altruistic nature or benevolent nature of the awareness that they have a perception of abundance. Do you see?
Yes.
They don't see themselves as abundant. They see that part of their life as abundant, but not themselves as abundant. So what happens here is individuals, in effect, are spending most of their energies reinforcing the perception of lack rather than shifting to a perception of abundance.